David Purdum, ESPN sports betting industry reporter, and noticed that there was something amiss with the Toronto Raptors' Jontay Porter. And all of a sudden, he's under investigation, and David joins us on the program. Summarize the NBA story that you and Woj broke.
Yeah, Jontay Porter, kind of a backup center for the Toronto Raptors, is being investigated by the NBA after irregularities in the betting market involving his player props. Player props are over/under on points scored, rebounds, assists, etc. There were two instances that sportsbooks flagged. Most recently, one just last Thursday against the Kings. Sportsbooks detected some unusual interest on betting on Porter, a low-profile guy that doesn't usually attract a lot of betting interest. All of a sudden, a lot of money was coming in on the unders in his game. He played for roughly 5 to 7 minutes, took himself out, was ruled out with flu-like symptoms. So investigation continues.
Okay. How do you guys get tipped off that there's something going on, that, the red flag?
Sourcing, just like anything. Been covering this industry for 15 years. I know everybody from bookmakers to the integrity monitors to league officials. So just like any other story, you catch a tip, you get wind from the sources that you've developed.
What did the NBA say when you gave them this story?
Brian Windhorst, one of my colleagues, and Woj got in there and they tried to get with them. It was pretty quiet from the league for quite a while, which was a little bit unusual for those two high-profile reporters. Eventually, they get back to us and just said that they're looking into it.
What's the most you can bet on a prop bet like this?
Great question, because it varies from book to book and from customer to customer. But typically, if you or I are to sign up and try to bet a prop, maybe we get $1,000 down, maybe $2,000. To get much more than that, you're going to have to be a VIP customer with special privileges. And that's what really stood out about this one, because customers came in at one sportsbook trying to bet $10,000 and $20,000 on the unders on Jontay Porter prop bets.
And do we know, like, Jontay Porter's connection to this? Is he betting on himself? Did he tell friends, "Hey, I'm going to take myself out of the game, load up on this"? How do you think this plays out?
Definitely plausible scenarios. We do not have any information to verify any of that at this time.
Yeah, that's the curious part of this, is you never think that you're being noticed. And, there's so much money that's being gambled here. Who's going to notice prop bets on Jontay Porter? And the problem is, we are going to notice, because it is Jontay Porter.
100%.
Calvin Ridley probably thought, nobody's going to care about this. Everybody's gambling. What's the NBA's rules on gambling?
So players, league personnel are allowed to wager on other sports, just not the NBA. They need to do it with a regulated operator. It can't be using an offshore sports book or an unlicensed regulator, and just can't be anywhere close to betting on any kind of NBA event.
And also the precedent of this, if you suspend him for a year or indefinitely or for a lifetime, if somebody else who is a noted player gets involved, then you have to treat them the same way. So I think it's going to be tricky. The commissioner might be in a tight spot here. Since you cover gambling, if you could ask Shohei Ohtani or his interpreter one question about that situation, what would it be?
That is a good question. Obviously, he's answered about whether he bet on baseball. Said no on that. I'm certainly interested in how he was able to rack up as many losses as we can. Debt we understood was $4.5 million in gambling losses. You have to be wagering probably close to 80 million, 100 million during that time to suffer those kind of losses. Because you don't lose every bet, right? I mean, it's impossible to lose every bet. It's impossible to win every bet. So you win some, you lose some. To get that down that much, you're betting significantly amount and a lot of volume. So I would just want more details on exactly his betting habits.
I was wondering about this with the illegal bookie. How much latitude does he give him?
Sure.
And don't you at some point want to know, can somebody cover these bets, or the fact that he is covering these bets with Ohtani's money, then he doesn't care about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you are booking someone and you know that they have a high profile person behind them, you certainly would probably give them a little more leeway. And I've talked to a couple of offshore sports books that deal in credit, and that's what they kind of said. Hey, this guy was sending us $500,000, $500,000 here. He was losing, he was paying, he was losing. We're going to give him a little bit more rope than we normally would if David Purdum signed up and only making his little bit amount of money. His credit limit wouldn't be nearly as much.
But do you think this illegal bookie knew that Shohei was taking care of his
Yes, I
friend?
certainly think. Oh well, taken care of. He certainly knew his relationship to Ohtani. He certainly knew that he was the interpreter or translator. Whether he knew that the money was coming for Ohtani, the name was on the wire transfers that our ESPN reporters looked at. Whether he thought that it was Ohtani specifically paying for him, I'm not aware of that, but he certainly knew the relationship.
What are the red flags that we should be aware of when it comes to gambling? I tell my audience I used to gamble. I don't gamble anymore, but everybody thinks they can win. Can you win, David?
It's very, very, very difficult, especially in a long term. There's a ceiling, and if you get good enough to win, you start are able to beat the books on a consistent basis. Well, guess what happens then? Now, instead of being able to bet a couple $100, you're limited to only betting $20. So there's a really low ceiling on betting. I would not recommend anybody try to be a professional bettor. If you want to do it for entertainment, you want to bet some disposable income, very small amounts. I think that is fine. Trying to beat the books is just a very, very difficult and challenging lifestyle.
I know you're busy. Thanks for joining us, David.
You got it, Dan. Thanks for having me.
David Purdum, ESPN sports betting industry reporter, and the story is Jontay Porter and his over-unders there.